With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, otherwise known as my basement, around the flights of the round table, it's my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Hey, Mark. I'm doing great down here. Always great to be back in the studios, around the table, not sitting in front of the fireplace.
Yeah, that's right.
Doing it live.
Doing it live, man. We got a guest in-house with us tonight, so this is going to be a lot of fun. We had a great time this weekend hanging out with him, so now we get to do an episode with him, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you probably showed us a better time than we're going to show him.
Well, I'm looking forward to this one, man. This is great. And we were talking just a few minutes ago. It's the first time we've had him on the show, which makes me feel bad that we have not had him on the show before. So we are righting a major wrong in doing that. So I'm excited to have our guest on. We do want to thank all our sponsors, though, of course, before we jump into everything. We couldn't do what we do without all of their help. And thank you, our listeners, of course, for tuning in and checking us out, whatever time of day it is that you're listening. So, Matt, with that said, you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. We probably couldn't have picked a better time to have him on than right now, really, with some big news coming up and what we're going to be talking about this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever it is you're listening to the Bourbon Life Podcast. But he's the president and chief alchemist at Dark Arts Spirits House?
Whiskey House.
Whiskey House, my bad.
Mark screwed it up on the notes there.
See, I should have
Whiskey House, Macaulay Minton. Macaulay, welcome onto the show. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. It feels good to be down here. And actually, this is going to be one of our first public media appearances now after going through a little phase of embargo, trying to get some things all lined up. And we're just excited to be out here and getting ready for the market at this point.
That's awesome, man. Well, we had a great time. You invited us down this weekend because you are here in Lexington. We'll talk about that more in a little bit and the location and everything. But, man, you invited us down, and we had a great time Sunday afternoon. So I don't know how else to say it, Matt.
There's no other way to say it.
Yeah,
Well, it's just a fact that whiskey tastes better from the D-Walt or the straight from the thief.
Yes, exactly right. And I'll agree with that 100%. I put a few videos up, actually, the last two days of you thieving straight out of the barrel. I put background music. I got Easy in on the first one.
Easy. That was, the request was made. I was like, my God did it. Yes.
It's so funny because everybody's like, why'd you pick that song? I'm like, man, because Macaulay said, do some Easy E. I'm like, boom, it's on. Boys in the Hood. You know it. So, but we had a great time, man. So I'm excited to go through this and to show everybody what it is you're doing and talk about it, man. So this is going to be a lot of fun. But let's see, before we jump in, we probably need to talk about what we have poured up because we're going to run through 5 different things tonight. Which is going to be great. But go ahead and tell us what we got poured up on round 1 here.
Yeah, so this is actually going to be part of our core lineup. So this is a 6.5-year-old low rye bourbon, technically, for our whiskey house. We'll get into that in just a second. But this is 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley.
Low rye.
About 6.5 years old. And then I finished this with a Jalipes French oak, which is a very specific forest origin. One of the smallest and most expensive French oak that money can buy, as I learned after I called my barrel broker, and he informed me of that. And I was just like, let's not rub it in. Let's just write the ticket up and get done with this.
Let's just do it.
Thank you. I love that flavor profile on it. It has that traditional backing of the savory French oak, but has some really nice fruit notes and herbaceousness to it. And there is a theory and a story out there that forest actually has a divine feminine energy in it as well too.
Okay.
Trying to go off kilter a little bit.
No.
So I'm just gonna have to go over to France and check that out.
Yeah, no
my
doubt.
Google Translate searches haven't fruited me the knowledge that I need. I need to speak to some witch in the woods or
There
something.
you go, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's awesome. Matt, what are you picking up? We'll jump in. What are you picking up on the nose on this one?
It strikes a really great balance between savory and fruity. The nice savory notes come across. I think the influence of that French oak, kind of those red wine, dark berries, but also there's a brightness to it as well. And just a good influence from the oak. It's like nice and bold, but not overpowering, certainly not at all tannic. I like the way this comes across after drinking it from the barrel and at 108 proof. I like the way this comes in.
Yeah, the thought process on 108 is pretty simple. 108's my favorite proof. So when you own a whiskey business, you can just walk in and say 108's it.
Yeah.
But also, going into the spirituality side of everything, 108's a very holy number. It's very symbolic in Hindu religion as well, too. You'll see mala beads that have 108 beads on them for when you're counting out and doing your mantras and your prayers. So it all kind of comes together. But I was doing a research study during COVID, and literally took some barrel samples from like 125 down to 80. We're sitting in there trying every single proof point, and almost everyone that I brought in there was like honing in on 108. So that just was enough for me right there. And then the rest is kind of history on that.
There it is. It's science.
Yeah, no doubt. It's dark arts.
Yeah.
The dark arts.
Yeah.
There you go.
Make sure you dabble in the dark arts responsibly.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's great. We're going to put a disclaimer right at the bottom of the notes.
Well,
Dark arts.
our like safety or like, tagline. Like, drink responsibly,
That's
dabble
right.
in the
Yeah,
dark arts responsibly.
That's
Yes.
funny, man. That's great. Matt, I agree with you, man. There's a lot of savory notes that come through on that, which is great. And I remember tasting this we did drink a lot Sunday afternoon, which was great. I mean, we really appreciate that. But I think, was this the first one that we did, I think? Or was it
That was the cast strength
Yeah.
variety. So I actually blended.
Right.
Went in and did a little blend this morning and
Okay.
proofed it down to 108 because everything that we do in our small batch is going to be 3-barrel cuvées.
Okay.
So, I mean, legitimate small batch. And my mindset with that is not trying to just make a mass consumer product, like hitting the dot every single time for conformity and consistency. I want to be able to make the best whiskey that I have possible with the resources that I have.
Yeah.
Unique blends, unique finishes, and just really kind of just letting people explore the world of whiskey and just instead of having that mundane, just like casual pourer off the shelf, if I drink a certain brand here or if I get it 6 months later, damn straight, it better taste the same every time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very nice. And so it's three barrel blends, so it's very small, like you said.
Yes.
108 proof. Man, when I say savory, I mean, it's almost coming across like I was gonna say almost like rendered bacon fat. Does that sound weird to say that? It's almost like meaty, which I've never picked up. I don't know if it's the wood that gives that aroma to me. But man, it smells, it's great. I mean, I love the nose on it. But yeah, so let's talk about you, man. We've talked about the nose on this one. You've got a really cool history in the industry. Can you tell everybody a little bit about, where you're from and how you got into the industry and then how you ended up where you are now?
Yeah, I guess we have to just talk about like the massive transformation from day one. I grew up in Western Kentucky. My family owns large farm, like row crop production. Had a little bit of a stint in D.C. working for the United States Senate.
Wow.
Went to University of Kentucky on scholarship.
Go Cats.
Only wanted to be a lawyer. Worked on a specific political party for a long time. Yeah. And then just one day I had just got so disillusioned by it. I went home smoking a little weed and I decided to throw all those LSAT books off the table. And I was like, damn it, I'm going to brew beer and I'm going to teach yoga.
Nice.
So just totally pushed that one off the plate. And then I kind of went through like a what am I doing phase and basically was ready to graduate college and found that there's a program at UK that now it's the Jim Beam Institute, but it was the brewing, distilling, and winemaking program there. Okay. So I actually stuck around for another year, went through that certification process, didn't give a shit about whiskey or wine at all. I was going to be a master brewer, moved to south like California or Colorado, you know, all these fun places that you like to go to. And then along the way, I was on a field trip and I went to Wilderness Trail and Firm Solutions, and I got to meet Dr. Patrick Heist. So somehow I weaseled my way into a internship in their microbiology lab and was working with yeast and brewing with them. And we actually I come in, brew some beer, test out some yeast, and we actually brought one of those yeast strains to market as one of their English ale strains that you can purchase from Firm Solutions now. So from that job...
Do you get royalties on that?
No royalties on that. I might have to go look through that NDA. I'll have you come through that for me.
Send that to your attorney, man. Let your attorney handle that.
See what I can get off that one. But yeah, that just opened a door for me. It was, I mean, usually you have a North Star goal in life and you kind of veer off the path to get there, but that's what it brought me to. I was hired to be a distillery operator. I'd worked on sweet mash fermentation side, doing some distillation, barreling stuff, sweeping the floors. That's when it was just like 10 of us at that point. Very small operation. So it was really eye-opening experience to be able to work through all phases of production. And then ultimately I landed in the gift shop and was able to start the private barrel program there. And I worked with the private barrel program for almost 6 years.
That's awesome.
And was able to grow that from about 100 barrels the first year up to 1,000, and have forged relations all over the world and all over the country, meeting individuals, store owners, and just really being able to go out there and sell the gospel whiskey and just let people forge an interpersonal relationship, because it's just so nice meeting all these people. Not everyone likes the same thing, and that's the beauty of making a custom blend or hunting down a single barrel, because you don't like something, you tell me why, and we're going to find you something you love.
Yeah. Well, we had the experience because we were invited. We were a guest of Eric years ago. That's 2019. That was a long time ago when we came down there. But Eric invited us to go with him, and I think he ended up buying 2 barrels it was a store out in California. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, man, we got in and you guys had the whole spread set up there in the gift shop area, man. The charcuterie board, everything was all set up. Took us out in the rick houses and let us, roam around in there. Best experience I've had and I've done several, and that by far was the best. Because you were there and you were like, let's just go do this. Let's just go find some other stuff if and you did, man, just exactly what you said. So, and everybody that I've talked to absolutely loved that experience. No question about it, man. So,
well, that was the beauty of being able to walk into that position and start it from the scratch.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't inherit a corporate script and guidelines from someone. I was the one that was forging that, and I literally went on a journey of corporate espionage, if you will, going into all these barrel pick experiences and saying, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and just really kind of come up with something that I thought that a guest and would really enjoy. Because, it's nice going out to the rick house. It is, but I can promise you in February, I can pull the biggest dog shit barrel out of the rick. It's going to be ice cold. You're going to love it. By the time they cut it down and it gets warm and it gets back to the bottle in your glass, and you're like, man, how drunk was I there? What did I eat before I went there to think this was good? So just try to cut all that out, having cask strength, non-chill filtered, fresh samples, no dilution, no mastery chemistry of water science over here to kind of figure out what we're going to get back. Just the raw experience.
Yeah, well, it was a great experience. I know we enjoyed it. Learned an valuable lesson. Never turn Matt loose in a rick house with a drill. That's all I'm gonna.
We were treated far better than we deserve. That's for sure.
No doubt about that, man. But that's really cool. So you were in the Beam. Well, it wasn't the Beam Institute back then, but that's something you mentioned, and I didn't realize that before. We talked about that this weekend a little bit. That's really cool because now they got the whole facility, man. They got everything set up over there. They just opened a grand opening a couple weeks ago, which is really cool. And they have an on-campus, column still over there, and they've got a rick house over there as well now, which is just, it's amazing to me to think that UK, which I graduated from there as well, so to think that they have a fully functional distillery and whole program there on campus, man.
Well,
that's
I'm
awesome.
expecting a bronze statue out in the front yard with Glen Cairn in hand.
You're the golden child, man. You're the one that kind of set the bar for. You're setting the bar for what what graduates and students that go through that program should be able to achieve in the industry. I mean, seriously, I mean, I think you're the model of what they anticipate, what they want their students to do.
Well, and that's something that I want to give back to as well, too. Like, I'm passionate about teaching. I teach the bourbon steward class. I'm an executive bourbon steward.
That's right.
I do a little bit different programming on it, take you through maturation, blending, and finishing a little bit more, put a unique spin on it. But one of my passions is just educating people, making sure that they know what they talk about, because so often in the industry, and it's no one's fault, it's like there's a lot of fake news out there.
Right.
You know, just like one person says something on a tour and then it becomes the gospel. And then, 6 years later, you're sitting down with Dr. Andrew from ISC and you're like, I know nothing. Like,
I don't know anything. Matt, let's jump back to the whiskey, because we got a lot to sample through, and I want to make sure we get through it all. But let's jump back, Matt. You're taking your taste over there. What do you get in terms of the? And I'm sitting here talking about, because I said rendered bacon fat, which sounds dumb, but it just, I don't know why I said that, but man, it struck me as that on the nose. But let's just go to the palate and finish.
Well, the palate is sweet. A lot of those berries, a lot of the red fruit comes out, stone fruit, plum, a little bit of fig, brightness from the berries. I think that French oak really pops. And 108, I think this is proofed really well. Nice and oily in the mouth, not a super tannic, hot finish. Really approachable. I think it's a great product to step out with the flagship on, and this is a good blend.
Yeah, I agree. So something, because it's 36% rye, and then is it 4% malted rye?
malted barley on this one.
Malted barley, okay. Mm-hmm. So 36%. And you would, to me, when I think of a high rye content, well, low rye.
Yeah,
For you guys. I expect that super spiciness, but I think, to me, I get a lot of spice, more spice maybe from the wood, from the French oak, than I do from the rye. I don't know. Do you know? Does that make sense?
I think I can see what you're saying. I think there's subtle baking spices coming through.
Right,
There's
right.
like nice cinnamon, ginger, cardamom.
But it's not as spicy on my palate as when I think of a 36% rye. I expect, I think people perceive that as, oh, it's going to be so spicy on your palate. And yes, this does have spice to it, but I think that French oak kind of translates. I don't know.
Well, I think there's an important lesson in my approach on this, because when I'm going through barrels, I'm tasting these and I'm like, okay, this one's exceptional single barrel.
Yeah.
I want this to go in the French oak. I think this would pair well and bring out that fruit note in the Madeira. This is made for my Pinot Noir barrel here. So I go in with like intent and intention to scale and score these barrels to see where it will best fit into our whiskey house's profile and turn out an amazing product. Because one of our things is like alchemy. So it's like the transformation of ordinary whiskey into liquid gold is kind of the whole mindset and operations there, and everything that we do is artisanal. I mean, if everyone says like, oh wow, you just bought some whiskey, like, no, that's not how it works out. I mean, there's blood, sweat, and tears in this. I had my mother come up from Florida. We're at the warehouse midnight blending and flipping barrels. It's a family operation. I do have a business partner as well too. He's involved. His name's David Pete. But we are all putting our blood, sweat, and tears in this. There's no huge team. There's literally two of us that day in and day out.
We saw you guys. We saw your mom down there Sunday, man, working Sunday afternoon for hours down there doing stuff, man. So that's really cool though. You guys get to do that, and that you are doing it and you're making this happen. And we talked about how excited. I'm just excited for you, man. So I think it's great. But I really love this pour. I really, really enjoy it. Just a great combination of flavors. Anything you wanted to add, though, in terms... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of the flavor profile or anything like that you wanted to add on that? Or
this is a glass that's just going to unfold as long as it sits there. I mean, the complexity of the nose and the complexity of the mouth, of the taste and the mouthfeel are just remarkable to me. It's not just like a one-tone thing. Like, you start diving into this, you start falling in love with the smell, letting it open up a little bit, letting it coat and caress the glass. It's just going to be ever evolving and changing in there. Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful whiskey.
And that is the small batch.
Yeah, it's
bourbon.
Our 3-barrel blend small batch.
Okay. All right. So that's the bourbon.
That's one of the 3 core lineup.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So if you like this product, it really is going to be so like evolving and changing throughout its lifestyle.
Correct.
And its lifetime. It's only a 3
barrel
blend.
I mean,
like
every batch is going to have its own unique nuances to it. I mean, there's no trying to replicate and conform it to something that it's not. We just want the beauty of this whiskey and this oak to shine through into the final product.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. You know, it's funny because I think for so long we've just been given things. It's like the same thing over and over and over, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people you buy a bottle of whiskey, you want it to taste like the way you want it to taste. But over the last few years, you know, with different blenders coming out with different products, it's just so unique when you pick up a bottle. And from year to year, or from release to release, it's going to be different. And I like a wine. We've talked about that several different times. You know that it's like a vintage of a wine. I mean, you're going to get a different product. You're going to get a different flavor profile. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think it's great to do that.
This is artisan. This isn't mass consumer corporate corn out here.
Corporate corn. I love that. That's awesome. So Matt, let's jump over to the next pour. Macaulay, if you want to tell us what you had poured up for us. We're going to skip on that.
This is our next core product. So this is what we're calling our High Rye Bourbon. So I'm actually marketing this one as barely legal bourbon. So this one is going to be 51% corn, 39% rye, and 10% malted rye on this one. We're actually going to release this as cask strength, non-chill filtered as well too.
Okay.
So we're going to leave this one alone, let that mash bill shine through. We will have some fun LTO products and finishing on this, but when I discovered this mash bill with one of our partners, I knew that this one needed to not be tamed and it needed to be released as is, because when I tasted this, I was blown away at the table.
Oh, yeah.
It was just this rich, complex nose. I dubbed this one the peanut brittle barrel, though.
Oh, yeah.
So
I got you.
It's just unique, though. I mean, I've never had a product that has that much secondary grains in it, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
and we talked about that this weekend, because that's what, when you told me the mash bill, I'm like, wait a second, it's 51, 39, 10, and that's 10 malted rye, so technically 49% rye.
Yes.
And I've never seen a bourbon that I know of. I mean, Matt, I think we even talked about that. I don't know that I've ever seen a bourbon profile like that, but maybe
nothing comes to mind right
They're
off,
unique.
right for
There's
me.
no question about it.
So you heard it here. It's an original.
There you go. It's an original. Dark Arts original. Matt, what do you pick up in terms of the nose on this one?
The nose on this is so great. It's like all over the place. It's got picked up like some of the mint and some of that influence from the 39 rye, but then there's also that roasted malted rye, kind of that like toffee, Heath bar, kind of chocolatey aroma. Just like a bright crispness, like a little citrus and that nuttiness. Gosh, this is
honestly, I mean, nosing this, if you
funky.
hadn't told me it was a bourbon, I would be speculating if this was actually a rye whiskey. Not just because you've said it is high rye, but I think it just has a lot of those characteristics from the rye that still come through. What's the age?
This is 6.5 years old.
6.5. Okay. All right. Gotcha. And the proof on this one, was it?
This one's 114.
114. Okay. That's great. But yeah, again, the nose, I'm getting like a bruleed sugar type of aroma on this as well, but the spices comes through. Matt, I think I picked up a little mint earlier, but there's just a sweetness on the aroma that just rounds out really nice on that, man.
I just get peanut brittle. I don't know if I just like.
Okay, no, that's.
Sometimes I'm just one and done on one. I mean,
that's
you
it.
saw where I wrote on there with
I know,
the
I saw
paint
it,
pen.
peanut brittle. I may have taken a picture of that barrel somewhere, possibly. So,
well, it's available for purchase.
there you go. That's awesome. So, I'll tell you what, guys, we're at the end of round one. So we got through the nose on this on the second one. So we'll come back and we'll talk about the finish, the palate, and the finish on this one, and then we'll talk more about the brand in round two. So
yeah.
Everybody just sit tight with us. We'll be back with round two with Macaulay Minton from Dark Arts Whiskey House in just a minute.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky. Three Chords line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The three-core team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the second round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight live again, still in the Bourbon Life Studios, this is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing down there?
Good. I am still in the Bourbon Life Studios. That's right. We haven't left. Good to be back, man. How about yourself, Mark? You good?
I'm doing great. Yeah, this is a fun time, man. We're having a good time tonight. Been looking forward to doing this. I'm glad we were able to put this together. Kind of short notice that we got this set up with our guests, but I think, like you said, Matt, perfect timing.
Absolutely.
This is the ideal time, and I feel, kind of like, we're the first, we're the. I feel like breaking news here, right?
Yes.
So this is fun, man. I appreciate this, and we had a great time with you, with our guest, I should say, on Sunday. Oh, Matt, just tell everybody who's with us, man. They already know.
Exactly. The president, Chief Alchemist of Dark Arts Whiskey House here in Lexington, Macaulay Minton. Macaulay, welcome back for the second round here of the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Right on. We'll just go ahead and say L'chaim to that one.
There you go, man. All right, so we're talking in this round. We talked about the nose on this one in round one. This is the high rye, so it's 51% corn, 39 rye, 10% malted rye. This is cask strength, non-chill filtered. 114 proof, right?
Barely legal bourbon.
Barely legal bourbon. Yep. That's right, man.
It's
so now
51%, so we're there.
Did you already say, is this also, is it a blend or are you single barreling?
That's a blend.
That is a blend.
That's going to be a blend for the core lineup, but it does have some of that peanut brittle one in there.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of, because I started, during the break just now, I was like, wait, I saw the barrel that said peanut brittle, so I just wanted to make sure that it was still, you're still doing a blend for the core.
That was one of the components.
I got you. Okay. And everything is 3-barrel blend.
3-barrel blends for the core lineup.
And this will be cask strength, though.
That will be cask strength.
Okay.
Yep.
The French oak will be at 108.
108, and then the Amburana rye will be 108 as well, too.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, a little teaser to what we're getting into.
That's right. Yeah.
Because
we're going to have to kill this one pretty soon, and then we'll move on to the third one, which I'm super excited about this one for sure, man.
Yeah, I'm glad that I had a driver for tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk about the brand. I mean, let's talk about Dark Arts. And actually, we'll talk about the bottles, but if you want to just hold one up so they can see what we are drinking on, we'll talk about everything, the bottle, the label, and everything. That'll be great. We'll talk about that in the third round, but I want everybody to at least see what you've got there, which is really cool. But let's talk about the brand, the creation, how you came up with this, we always talk about the history of the brand. This history is kind of condensed at this point, right? So
yeah, it's pretty new, but at the same time, it's not, because we play on the tradition of alchemy, which is about transformation. Right. And it's interesting, like when I was doing some market research, there's people out there, it's like, well, alchemy failed. They didn't ever turn blah, blah, blah into gold. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't get it. Alchemy is about transforming your life into a life of gold right there. Yeah. And if you'd have failed to see that, you can't see the trees for the forest kind of deal on that. But alchemy is also what brought us modern medicine. It brought us distillation. It's brought us chemistry. So just kind of pulling into that, like, homage to the old and the people that helped lay the pathway there. There's a lot of times that story gets dissipated out. Like, you get to Kentucky and then it's just like, I run corn through a liquor factory and I put it out the back. Like, I don't know nothing about that. Like,
right.
That kind of thing.
What's that?
Yeah. But also at the same time, my whole background is rooted in scientific and like innovation.
What did you major in?
I'm community leadership development, MBA in marketing and management. Right. I've been to Moonshine University several times.
Wow, nice.
I've got a working on another master's degree in lobbying and political managing and digital strategy and strategic public relations. So I don't know what the next degree is yet, but I think I'm done at this point.
Take a break.
So
You got a
running
pretty
distilleries, political campaigns, and transforming people's lives is kind of my modus operandi at this point.
Alchemy at its highest level,
transformation
right? At the highest level.
I also teach yoga and meditation as well too. So I mean, I am the alchemist.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's really cool. So, but this is a concept. I mean, you kind of had this in your head for a while, obviously.
Oh
right?
yeah, I mean, my entire life I've been wanting to be my own business since I was probably 12 years old.
Yeah.
Like while everyone else is taking shop and working on cars, I was in there taking advanced accounting with my teacher 101, typing away, just doing everything to help me propel myself to be at this point that I am today. I mean, I remember when I was working at the distillery and I was getting in there at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was like, all right, I work in a factory now. And I got to get off this forklift and I need my ass in the office. So I literally applied to Northern Kentucky University on my cell phone on the forklift and started my MBA process there.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
And then there, I mean, every assignment I did, I framed that around the whiskey industry. So it just helped me set myself and propel me to the future.
Yeah. So you're planning, I mean, not knowing exactly where it's going to lead, but you were planning something, I mean, in your mind. I mean, even regardless of where it may lead, you were setting the foundation really for where it could take you.
Oh, I have journals and journals of ideas of things and flavor maps and just like falling down the rabbit hole. I mean, we can talk about absinthe, gin, any spirit in the world. I probably got a notebook on it out there. Like I really get into the science behind it because I don't know. People tell me what I'm tasting. I want to know why I'm tasting. I want to know what the process was. Like, what grains did we select to do that? What fermentation methods did we use? Yeah. Like, are we using enzymes? Like, what kind of barrel seasoning are we doing? I mean, every single thing adds to that fingerprint and that DNA of that final spirit that comes across. And I want to unpack that and learn it through a scientific mind, but also infuse a certain element of art and my own charismatic abilities to it as well too, to make a signature whiskey.
So there's the science part of it, but then there's also that skill, that art part of it is what the dark art part of it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what the dark arts part is right there.
Awesome.
It's interesting when you start getting into owning your own whiskey brand. It's like, well, I learned this in my MBA program, but they didn't teach me how to drive the forklift. Like that might be one of the most important jobs from time to time.
Important, right? Yeah.
What you don't learn in school, but learn on the streets of life is sometimes the hodgepodge that makes success.
Yeah, I can fully relate to that. So Matt, we didn't talk about the palate and finish on this one yet, did we?
Not yet.
Why don't we do that? Because we want to switch over to the next pour in this round. So go ahead and tell it, what do you get in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
Yeah, the Barely Legal Bourbon, it's got a lot of rye for me on the palate. Pick up a lot of baking spice right up front, then that roasty malted flavor, those roast peanuts, the sweetness from the brittle you were talking about. A little bit of the corn shines through. There's like a touch of cornbread with it, but just really good, like unique.
But for me, I don't think that this is like a dill or a spirit.
No.
Yeah,
certainly
not.
It's
almost like redefines rye from our partner that we get our whiskey from, for me.
Yeah. This carries none of those dill, mint, or like spearmint, grassy flavors. This is like the other spectrum, kind of that like spicy, bold, baking
that might
spice.
be a good thing to segue into. So I didn't start distilling this whiskey in my dorm room 10 years ago.
You've been barreling this shit?
Running still out of the Delt House on Nicholasville Road. And
oh, gosh.
So we're just buying some of the best whiskey in the world that we can right now. I mean, we've got several distillery partners that we work with.
Yeah.
MGP is one of them. I mean, they've put us on for some remarkable products. I know that there's some people that hate that, or haters out there on it, but I can tell you, I have scored through these barrels and I have some gold here. And what we do with it does not make you think MGP off the bat. This is innovation and transformation in its prime right there. And I had the privilege to actually go there on a trip and do a tour of the facility. It's funny because we're going through this tour and all of a sudden, turns out you can't wear shorts through there. So the sales director's like pulling off his blue jeans and let me slide them on real quick so we can get into the plant. And it was just like, where was that in the memo at some point? So
yeah,
it's just funny. And at this point, we're all just becoming a family, in my opinion. And it's just the cream rises to the top, and I just look for future success, being able to showcase some of these spirits with a innovation and twist to it, and bringing whiskey through my lens perspective out to the masses. Well, not masses, it's pretty small batch and artisan, but you know what I mean.
Sure. I mean, you're getting it out there to people. We'll talk about because I was surprised when you talk about distribution this weekend. We'll talk about that towards the end. But yeah, I mean, I think people are going to be surprised right off the bat where you're at with that. But you've got quite a few barrels. I don't know you want to say how many you got, but a lot of times when you talk with somebody that's a non-distilling producer, the concern always is, well, yeah, you've got some barrels, you put some stuff out, but you're going to run out of barrels. And what are you going to do when you can't get access to barrels? But what we talked about, it doesn't sound like that's going to be a problem for you guys. Is that a fair assessment?
My supply chain is secure.
That's a great way to answer that question. So we can expect Dark Arch to continue to have product to work with.
Yes, sir.
For a while. That's great. Matt, we should jump over to this next pour. Macaulay, do you want to tell everybody? You can hold up the bottle again if you want to show everybody.
Yeah,
what it
so
is.
this is actually another flagship. So this is our 95.5 rye whiskey that we finished with toasted Amburana. Love this flavor profile that comes through there. You usually come off with that traditional 95.5, but that Amburana just takes it to a whole new dimension.
Yeah.
It adds elements of like vanilla icing, cinnamon notes. It reminds me of being a kid eating a big old bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch almost.
Exactly.
But this is amazing just to sip on its own. But just think of the cocktails that you can make. I've already fashioned up like a apple old fashioned out of it. I'm doing some innovation on a green apple bitters and Manhattan mix for like a black Manhattan as well too.
Oh yeah.
I'm just waiting for this to get into the right bartender's hands and see what this can shine out to be, because this is the one that most people get excited about. They'll try this and then they'll be like, whoa, what is this? Like, I mean, the nose, it just has so much impact on it, and the whole flavor and body of it just shines through as well too. I mean, this is not a boring whiskey.
That's why, of course, it won't really translate well on the camera here, but the legs, the cling on this it's crazy. So Matt, what do you think in terms of the nose? This one's right up your alley. I know,
yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
Somebody needs to go pick Matt back up off the floor.
All those beautiful dessert notes that I love, like the inside of cinnamon roll, like fresh baked cinnamon roll, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I pick up a little bit of citrus, like holiday orange and clove, kind of like think of like holiday aroma that you would get out of the kitchen. I think your description, like vanilla icing, is right on. It has really like cream cheese frosting, like all the good. God, I'm like,
if you've ever made your own buttercream frosting in a mixer, I don't know if you guys have ever done it, where you just take powdered sugar and butter and mix that together. That's really, I picked that up on this. Just that sweetness, but that cinnamon comes through. That's the thing that just always hits me first on this is that cinnamon. I'm not even going to get to the palate just yet.
I mean, hell, I was thinking about DoorDashing us the ingredients to make bananas Foster with this when we get done with the show.
Ooh, this would make a killer bananas Foster.
Well, no doubt. And this is a 95.5.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But you don't get that rich spearmint, that dill in there.
You don't.
Like, this is like, has been...
Not at all. That would
transform.
I
think that's a good way to put everything that we've had from your flagship so far. Is you're taking products that most people are pretty familiar with, and you're definitely going through your alchemy process and making them your own, like using your specific French oak, which you have a custom toast on, right?
Yes.
So it's not just like, hey, give me some French oak.
And specific forest origin. I mean, there's a lot and intent and intention that goes behind everything that we have. Like when I was starting out, I had all this Protostet whiskey at my house. I mean, I had like carboys full of whiskey just sitting around my living room, wood in it. Every surface, every refrigerator top desk had mason jars in it. Like the AT&T guy came over to work on the internet, and he's like, what you got going on in here, boy? And I was just like, I work at a distillery. And
Breaking
he's
Bad.
like, oh, okay. Like, but can I get a jar? And I'm like, yeah, like, throw on some HBO Max or something.
right.
Like that.
Yeah, right.
Hook me up.
Work something out here.
We'll work out a deal. That's exactly right.
Yeah, smash
Everything's
your gigs.
negotiable, right? Everything's negotiable. So let's talk about the distillery itself, because we talked about the brand, how you came up with it. The name, you kind of explained what the name is, and we'll talk more about the label here in the third round. But talk about the facility. Matt and I got to go down Sunday. We had a great time. You've got a lot of tremendous plans with that. But can you talk about that and what you got going on?
So we're
there?
actually partnered with Divine Spirits, which is a contract bottling facility and soon to be distillery in Lexington. So they're about to come off on the scene really soon.
Okay.
Really excited about what they're going to do, but they're actually our brand house there.
Okay.
So kind of like Bardstown has other brand houses, you know, like
Right,
you walk in there, see all these other products. So one of my friends, Abigail Felix, amazing person. We met several months ago, and then just kind of saw that our visions were similar path. Kind of decided to start up a partnership and just see where we could soar together. We kind of have a different take on the spirits industry a little bit.
Yeah.
I joke and say that we're the hippie spirits cartel, though.
Nice.
But it's just not about like that. Making profits important, but also investing in the community, making impact in people's lives is more important to me too.
Yeah.
So when I'm calling people and trying to source things, may it be designers, shirt suppliers, I'm looking at my inner circle because I want to help out my friends and family, just like they have helped me get to this position as well too.
Yeah.
So it's about spreading that local economy, friendships, and just kind of building up each other instead of, you get into like corporate corn, you get into these like huge companies, and it's just it's not like that anymore. Like they take the character and the culture out of whiskey, and we're culture warriors. We want to reestablish that. We want to show the positivity of spirits consumption in there, even though it does have a shadow side as well too. But
Well, it's funny you say that, because I'm thinking like these larger companies, fortunately, it's like they almost, when they're distilling the whiskey, it's like they almost distill the entire spirit of the community out of it sometimes. I mean, it just becomes about the liquid and running the brand, making the money, and that's really what it's about. Whereas, like in your situation, it's not just about what you got, but what you can get back and how you can incorporate what you're doing, really, right?
it's about the impact that you can make.
Right.
Even if that's on an interpersonal level, if that's on a local community level, if that's on a national level or a planetary level. I mean, it's about the impact that you can, because when you're a consumer, that's powerful. When you go to the store and you take something off the shelf, you really need to know what's behind that brand. What are you supporting? What are you putting your money back into? Ultimately, and a lot of people don't realize that when you go to a huge store. I mean, you don't think about the impact of buying X, Y, and Z, but like that's really how it comes down to, and especially with these small companies and partnerships like this.
Yeah.
Like we don't have $1 billion stock exchange backing on this. My whole livelihood is in this.
Yeah.
If I succeed, I succeed. If I fail, it's all on me though.
Yeah. And this blend, just jumping back to that real quick, this is also a 3-barrel blend.
That is a 3-barrel blend.
Okay, 95.5 3-barrel blend, 108.
That's 108.
Okay,
6.5-year-old.
6.5 going back to the 108 proof. Yeah, it's great. I mean, Matt, let's go ahead and talk about the palate and the finish, man, while we're here, if you want to do that.
Yeah, the palate and the finish, as much as I think the nose really brings forward all of those Amburana and that big cinnamon toast crunch dessert flavors. I like the palate that it brings some more of the rye into it as well. It's not like overly sweet and overly dessert, like there's some backbone from that rye. Some of the black peppers, those other baking spices besides just like cinnamon and clove come through. None of the herbal characteristics that we would get from one might get from a 95.5, but it's almost, it tastes to me like a Bengal spice tea. Kind of has like some of those flavors. Just really great, really well done. Nice, oily, thick in the mouth, good coating, good finish.
Yeah.
Just 108 proof, really, really nice. Really well done, approachable, good drinking whiskey.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's, that cinnamon flavor comes through on the palate as well. That rye spice really kicks in, which is, I think I probably kind of maybe expected that on the other one, the bourbon with the higher rye content, that I was going to get more of that kind of a spice to it, which I didn't, which is fine because I love that one. This one though, you do get that kick, but like you said, Matt, you don't get those herbal notes that we've talked about that you might otherwise normally get. You get that cinnamon, that sweetness, but it's not overly desserty, like you said, Matt, as well. I really can't add much more than what Matt already said.
I mean, if you poured that blind for me, I'd smell that and be like, "Oh, what is this?"
Oh yeah,
like what is this? I'm intrigued.
Oh yeah.
Like
when you poured it up for us down there, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is awesome." So let's talk a little bit about the barrels, because you talked about sourcing them, tracking stuff down, and working on that. So how are you finding? Because you're doing a lot of different finishes, you're getting some really interesting woods, you're doing some different stuff. So how does that work? I mean, how do you find all that stuff to do?
I mean, I work with several cooperages around the country, and then a specific individual that helps import barrels from across the world.
Okay.
One of my great friends, Jessica Atkins.
Yes,
Jessica Ann, if you
I know,
will.
that's funny. When you said her last name, I was like Jessica Atkins. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, oh yeah, Jessica Ann.
She actually works for H&A Barrel Management Company. And one thing I didn't know is like most wine producers actually don't purchase their cask. They actually like lease them from them.
Oh, I didn't know
so the lifespan of a wine barrel is they really want some of that tannins in it. So like you'll have an option by first fill, second fill, third fill. After that, they're just done. Like the wood's spent, but that's great for whiskey and beer production though, because I don't want all that tannin. I'm looking to dive into that Pinot Noir, that Madeira, all those like flavors that have been soaked in from that wine or from a spirit as well too. So being able to have good friends and good partners, I mean, like I just said earlier, that's my homie. So I've been able to get plugged on to some good stuff, and then just being able to experiment. I mean, like when we were doing Pinot Noir finish, for example, I was like, she's like, not many people have done that. And I was like, well, I like whiskey. I like Pinot Noir. I'm doing it.
Put them together. So are you talking then, because you mentioned the first, second, and third fill. So are you going with like the later fill, like third fills?
Most of them are the later fills.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. So
because you want that wine to be able to penetrate in that wood as much, because that's what we're going for there. We're not really trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to pull out more tannins, lignans, or anything like that out of there. We're looking for secondary finishing qualities there, and that's that punchiness in there.
I got you.
So when I'm finishing something, I want that to come through. I want it to be a little punchy on the back end and just make something that is amazing for me, as well as individuals as well too. I mean, when you walk through all of our LTOs, I don't expect everyone to love it, but there's going to be something that you do love.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but that's really cool that you're using those barrels because, like you said, I mean, obviously the wine's been in there 1, 2, 3 times. It's pulling out the tannins and things from all that wood, just so our listeners understand what we're saying, because you get to that point where you kind of pull a lot of the things that winemakers want out of the wood, but now you're putting that wine, it's staying in the wood. So when you're putting whiskey in it, you're not pulling out the typical components that you would in a first fill whiskey barrel, where you're pulling the stuff, all those congener, all those things out of the actual wood. You're pulling out that wine, those flavors, those aromatics mostly from the wine.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm dumping whiskey into like 10 gallons of Madeira that's floating around either.
Right.
There's some people out there that do that, but that's not our modus operandi.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can try. I'm not going to go into different brands or anything like that, but I know I've definitely tried some like orange curacao barrels. I'm like, oh, well, how much whiskey was actually in that? What am I doing here?
What y'all do?
What is this?
And those barrels are bigger, right? They're
a lot of times they are. So they're 63, 71 gallons.
Yeah.
Like
so
it just depends on what it is and where it came from.
Yeah, because those barrels you had down there, we looked at some of them because I knew they were larger. I didn't know what the gallon size, because typical American whiskey is 53 gallons. So, but I could tell just by looking at those other barrels that it was a wine barrel and it was bigger. So very cool. Well, guys, we're at the end of round 2. So why don't we take a quick break and we'll get a word from our sponsors. Then we'll come back and finish those last 2. I'm looking forward to getting into those as well. But everybody sit tight. We'll be back with more with Macaulay Minton, the president and chief alchemist from Dark Arts Whiskey House, in just a minute.
From our good friends at the Stave comes Lexington's newest hot spot to meet up with friends, have fun, and eat some great food. District 7 Social is a social and beer hall, but it's a lot more than that. Located in Lexington's Distillery District, It's the home of Lexington's first duck pin bowling lanes, and it also features a self-serve beer wall. That's right, self-serve. And if you want more, they've got it. You can try one of their delicious cocktails from the bar or order some great German fusion food from their on-site eatery, Germanish. So what are you waiting for? Be seen, be social. District 7 Social.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live, he has not left yet, is my good buddy, Matt. Matt, how you doing down there at the end of the Fights of the Round Table?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. I love these flights of the round because you look at the table afterwards and it's just a mess of bottles and glasses and used glassware, just like all the evidence of a great time.
Yeah. And
a couple of blood spots from cutting off the wax.
We
Stitches for putting a finger back together.
Yeah. We had a few issues getting into those. I had to break out the...
There's a torch on the table.
I'm still experimenting.
Yeah, that's right.
Break out the torch gun, right? So just to melt a little bit of wax. But you're getting there. So we do want to thank all of our sponsors, everything they do for us. We appreciate all their support. Matt, with that said, you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. The president and chief alchemist at Dark Arts Whiskey House here in Lexington, Kentucky, Macaulay Minton, is back joining us again. And third round, we're doing two this round. We've got some special stuff poured up. What did you bring for us, Macaulay?
Yeah, I'm honestly trying to become the king of the LTO products. So that's limited time offerings for the people that don't know that little marketing buzzword right there. So right now, I use some of the foundation whiskey of that 60-36-4 mash bill, and I've got some Madeira cask finished, and also some Napa Valley Pinot Noir finish as well too.
Yeah. So
I'm a huge wine drinker as well too. So whenever I can diverge those two things together, I'm all about it.
Yeah. This is nice. Matt, what are you picking up on the nose on this one?
This one's the Madeira one that we're starting out with.
This is the bourbon is the 51...
The
60-36-4.
Yeah,
60-36.
The low rye.
The low
rye.
rye.
36% low rye.
That kills me, man. 36% rye, the low rye mash bill.
At my house it is.
Wow. Good for you.
Oh, man.
You need more houses like that.
What do you pick up, Matt?
It's really savory. There's a lot of really great influence, I think, from the Madeira coming across. A lot of those really great red wines, but there's also it's like this really nice undertone of like rich vanilla, almost like a sweetness, kind of like nougat-like underneath all of it. Just really great red fruits, almost like a little floral quality to it as well, but just really, really nice. There's a really great nose.
It reminds me of like when you crack open, when you get a date, and instead of biting into it, you kind of open it up.
Yeah.
And you just like let the aroma, you kind of just that dry, sugary kind of aroma that comes off a date.
That's funny. I had a couple dates today.
Did you really? Does it remind you of this in any way, shape, or form, Matt?
I can see that.
Yeah, because that's actually, it kind of falls into the Madeira wine family there because they're actually the way they kind of started getting into production. I'm not a sommelier, so we put it in the show notes if I'm wrong, please. But essentially, they were sending there's a Madeira island off of North Africa, and they sent this ship out to sea, and cargoes out, sun elements, were baking on the Atlantic, and the ship got turned around and they brought it back, and then they were like, oh wow, there's something to this, like letting that wine cask bake in the sun a little bit. So Madeira has a little bit more funk to it, a little bit more like those citrus notes, a little bit more rich date note. I get more fruit note from white port and red port. I think Madeira has a very unique, like molasses like quality to it almost.
I can see that. Yeah, there's a sweetness to it, but for some reason it just cracking open a day.
And if anyone wants to sponsor my trip to Madeira Island, my Venmo is Yogi Brews 420.
There you go. And his master sommelier class that he'll be taking. His certification program that he'll be going through. If you've watched the Netflix Somm documentary, then you'll think otherwise about going through that.
But not many people are doing Madeira finishes, are they?
I'll just say it this way: I only bought 4 of those barrels, and I wish I bought 10 times.
Yeah,
because it's funny because when you're getting into this experimental phase, you don't know what's going to be a success or not. So you're like, all right, I'm going to just have 4. So I'm going to do some rye whiskey in this. I'll do some bourbon. hell, those are the first ones to sell out. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like calling my broker. I'm like, hey, can I get a free trip from H&A over there to Madeira Island and just meet the supplier? Like,
Yeah.
how far is our relationship going? I mean, like, how many more barrels do I need to buy to get to this point? Like,
Yeah.
Hey, well, here, just a question kind of off of that. And I hadn't thought about this before, but can you do a second whiskey fill on a wine barrel? Or?
So that is where you get into the art of it, and
Okay,
this
all right.
artist is not about that.
Okay, all right.
So
I was wondering, yeah.
I plan on either transforming these into light whiskey fill barrels after
Oh, okay.
that,
All right.
or I'm going to send these off to some new partners, and we're going to do some beer in them.
Oh,
Because
nice.
I want my stuff to be punchy. We've had this conversation. I want you to be able to taste that wine in there.
Yeah.
I don't want it to overpower it, but I want a very strong influence on it instead of like you're over here like doing key bumps of the whiskey and you're like, I don't see no Madeira in this right now. Like, where's it at? Like doing
Right.
the gummer. Like, where's this at?
I'm not quite getting it. Let me just snort a little. Let me shoot a little up. Wait a second.
Yeah, there you
it
go.
is.
Mainline the bourbon and then
So let's talk a little bit about the facility again. We talked about what you're doing, the work you're putting in. You guys are down there all the time, putting in a ton of work. So once it's done, do you have what's your target date for that?
So we're just trying to navigate construction and
Yeah.
getting our partners DSP license going on too, because that's just going to open a lot of doors for us. So whenever Divine Spirits is able to get their production facility going is when we'll be able to open up to the general public as well too. So
Okay.
they've got a really interesting program that they're going to put on, live music, whole entertainment complex, bar. They're going to do distillery tours as well too, and then there's also going to be a Dark Arts Whiskey House experience as well too.
Yeah.
So the Dark Arts Whiskey House experience is kind of multifold. So you can be able to come in, do a walking flight where you can thief out of the barrel, sit in one of our beautiful blue velvet couches, or
They were gorgeous, man.
you want to
Gorgeous.
come in and you do a bottle your own experience, or you fall in love with something on that flight, you can do that. Or if you want to set up like a 2-hour blending session, we can really fine tune a whiskey that you love. And so if you want 2 bottles or 2,000, I got you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you've got a lot of barrels down there, I mean, on site, which is really cool. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to do things. So I think it's going to be great. I mean, once you guys get open, and what's the road? Can you tell? Are you telling everybody?
Lyle Industrial.
Lyle
Road.
Industrial.
Lyle Industrial.
There's no signs yet.
Yes, that's the key word, right?
Yeah,
There's
we're
no
going
signs
for
yet.
bourbon underground vibes.
I
Like we
got
want to
you.
be in the know.
Yeah,
Like
it's like you got to show up. There's a place here in Lexington. It's like a speakeasy, but there's like no, like there's just a door or something or mirror or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And I've never been there, but like you have to know where it is to get into it, right?
that's what we're looking for. Those in the know.
There you
know
go.
dark
If you
arts.
know the dark arts.
Well, I got to say, when we parked on the lawn and I saw all the glass windows full
With
of
the barrels.
I kind of had the idea I was in the right place. So,
Yeah, that's a giveaway.
I see lots of bourbon barrels. I think I'm
Yeah.
in the right location.
the right spot.
Yeah, pulled off on the grass, and I'm like, wait a second, can I park? I'm like, I don't care. Everybody else is.
It's
parked
cool
here.
to see this in Lexington, though. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Because we don't have anything like that in
No,
town,
we really
right?
don't, man. I mean, we've got distilleries and we've got producers and brands that are here, but nobody that's going to be offering all that together. I don't think. So.
Yeah, I was talking to a unnamed tourism official over the weekend, and I was like, I hate to say this, but Lexington's like the black hole of the Bourbon Trail. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you think Louisville, Bardstown, like I might venture down to Maker's Mark, but
Right.
like what can I do in 3 days? Like, but I think that this helps bring into a portfolio there. We're right outside of the distillery district.
Right.
And I think that this is going to help bring in some interactive, like experiential stuff because no one else is offering that. I mean, hell, I've been on thousands of distillery tours and I've given more than that too. It gets boring over that.
Right.
And, like, all right, can I just get the point and shoot, like still fermenter liquor, like experience real quick? But with this is like fine tuning what your experience is. Like, what kind of whiskey do you want? Like, what do you want to bring home to your bar? What do you want to give for a gift to someone special? Like, do you want to bring make a little 6-pack for your house and family for Christmas, or like come up with something interesting, or you just want to buy a whole barrel? You know,
You got them covered,
right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's great, and I think it's going to be great for Lexington. I really do. I'm excited about it because that's a conversation I've had with some tourism people as well. Is that Bardstown has a lot of distilleries. They really don't have places for people to stay. Louisville has some distilleries, but a ton of places to stay. And Lexington has some distilleries and not quite as many places to stay.
Well, conveniently, the Manchester Hotel is beautiful,
exactly
and it
right,
is
right, yeah.
3 minutes away from our facility and right next to the distillery district in downtown.
I'm excited about this, man.
Lexington's gone through a massive transformation since I've been here. I mean, I'm so excited about that place getting developed out. I'm so excited about that outdoor amphitheater that's coming down
park,
to
Central Bank.
I mean, because everyone on our team is all about music, culture, and art, and that's what we want to. We want to make Lexington weird.
No, I think it's going to be great, man. They get that built down there by Rep Arena or whatever they're calling it now, with Central Bank Arena or whatever it's called, but they're building that whole area out, going out towards the distillery district. So that whole area is just continuing to grow and expand, and a lot of cool opportunities in the park and amphitheater, everything else. That's going to be great. Matt, let's talk about the palate and finish on this one, and then we'll move over to the other one. What do you get?
I pick up a good bit of the rye, that 36 rye. There's a nice spiciness that some of the other ones didn't have right on the front. Some of that peppercorn comes through, but then that Madeira, like you were talking about, Mark, that date or that fig flavor, like it comes through, like it's like this really like kind of sweet jammy type flavor, like a syrup or a jam. Just really well done. Brightness from like red wine fruits, but a nice undertone and sweetness, and just good backbone whiskey in it as well. You can tell that you're not trying to like hide a bad run or a bad barrel or something within these barrels. That,
man, I'm going to tell, so far, this is my favorite of the night. It's just the flavor to it, the rye spice that comes through, the sweetness, that date kind of aroma and flavor. Man, and like I get leather even on this one, a little bit of leather. Like,
see that,
like some pipe tobacco maybe as well. So just a really good combination, man. This is pretty awesome. And this one, did we already say 108?
Oh no, this is cask strength.
This is cask.
So this is 115 proof, 6.5-year-old product there. So most of our stuff is going to be cask strength, except for that core lineup with two of those being 108. I really want to go for the king of the LTO product line because, like I said, when y'all were there at the shop, we've got white port, red port, Pinot Noir, Madeira, maple syrup, Amburana, 3 different types of French oak, 2 different varietals of American oak that we're finishing into. Yeah. So just my compliance person probably hates me because I'm just like, I need you to follow these 22 colas for me. And we're just like, oh God. And I'm like, it's just not going to get better because I'm just going to keep adding to it.
More and more. Well, I think it's great. You're going to have a lot of different options for people, a lot of different LTOs. Like you said, you're going to be the king of the LTOs, man, for sure. So let's move over to the final pour for the night. What do we got poured up for?
I call this barrel Wagyu blood.
Wagyu blood.
This is the color on it.
Yeah. People can see that. I mean, it's crazy.
Beautiful color.
Yes, it is.
So this is Pinot Noir cask finish with the 6036-4 mash bill. I made this to eat a nice ass A5 Wagyu steak.
I've heard you're a fan.
Rare. Because like when you're pairing foods, I've always been told from wine or anything, like you want to match intensity with tensity. So like this right here, I feel like is the ultimate thing to wash down one of them ultra rich steaks. Maybe a pinch of little red wine salt on her.
Nice.
You know,
he's like expert. Will you tell us the place you went? You had like how many different, like 20 different salts or something crazy?
Doris Metropolitan in New Orleans, one of the best steakhouses out there. Highly recommend them. make sure you get the bone marrow bone and get the most expensive rye whiskey and take a luge out of it. Pro tip.
Did you get a video of that?
Oh yeah, there's a video out there
yeah.
that I walked in there the next day. It was famous. The bus boys even knew my name when I was walking in.
We love you. You're awesome, man. Matt, what do you pick up on this one?
This one really it's bold and intense. I think a lot of the red wine influence comes through. I really can feel like the grape on this, like those bright, bold grape flavors. There's a sweetness, good vanilla, good barrel influence, and just like we've had everything tonight, the influence from using good whiskey to begin with is certainly not lost on any part of the nose. It's just good whiskey around, and then the finishing in it is just absolutely tremendous.
You know, I think sometimes when you say finished whiskeys or wine finish, people are like just turned off. They're like, oh no, I'm not going to like that. And it's like, no, I mean, these last two, these have been amazing.
Well, let me jump in on that for a second because there's a lot of different finishing going on out there in the market. Mm-hmm. And for example, there's people that you can buy a barrel that's been infused with Madagascar vanilla, like strawberry brandy, you know, and then like all of a sudden I have like this Neapolitan bourbon at home and it's just like, I wonder how they did that. I'm doing something similar, but this is like a traditional wine that's finished in an actual cask and not something that I have someone jamming in flavor and they're rolling it around in a factory and giving it back to me.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like this is more of a purist finish approach. Yeah. But I guess that's just for the viewers and the consumer to tell us who's right and wrong on that.
Well, we've seen the barrels, so we know you're doing it the right way.
Oh yeah, almost every single one of those is imported from France and then aged wine for a very long time. And
so let's talk about the bottle itself. We kind of alluded, you've shown the bottles a little bit, but that was one thing you talked about, the label design and everything. We talked about the bottles as well. Strategic. You know, we talked about the fact that the size of them and everything. So can you kind of go into that and talk about it?
Yeah, I'll actually hold this up for a little bit. So
here, you want to do it? Or
yeah, sure, that'll work.
That way you can.
Yeah, so when I went into selecting bottles, like everyone in the world has a tall wine bottle.
Like a BTAC.
Like, yeah, you know, it's just that standard wine bottle, tall, skinny, perfect. I found this bottle, and it's actually apothecary style bottle, which kind of fits into the motif. So it's kind of round and fat, and it just commands attention. Like this is one that has to go at the front of the collection because it's short and stocky.
Yeah, right.
You won't find it at the back of it though.
Yep.
But that's only just one component to it. There's a lot of symbolism and influence that go into that. So our main feature on the front image is an illustration of an alchemist in a old dungeon whiskey lab with all his barrels, Amblick still and everything going on. And then we've also came up with, through studying some alchemical texts and learning through the symbolism and the language, we actually have 7 different alchemical symbols on there that kind of highlight the process of the whiskey of alchemy. So the first one is crop growth. The next one is fermentation, followed by distillation, maturation, finishing, blending, and bottling. Yeah. And then we talked about this. Me and Mark studied Latin for several years, but don't know shit about Latin.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Hart.
But I've always been because a lot of alchemical texts are in Latin, so I thought it would be proper to put that on there. So we actually have a Latin phrase on there that the transliteration is defy convention and unleash your spirit. And that really embodies what we're trying to do, is to make a ultimate whiskey drinking experience for someone to go shatter through the status quo and come up with something that they love to drink, whether it be one of these regular products, one of our LTOs, or actually coming in and blending something that defines your palate. So I think that really encompasses in that. And then with the whole label motif, it's surrounded by the Ouroboros, which is the snake that's eating its tail. And then it just kind of represents the infinity and like the cycles of life in there as well too. And then all like the flaky gold stuff is actually a Japanese technique. So in Japan, I'll butcher the name of it, so I won't even say it. But like, if they break a teacup or a vase, they'll fill it back with gold.
Yes, I've seen.
So it just kind of encompasses that whole mindset of being able to piece things together, turning it into liquid gold.
Yeah, very nice. And I know the wax is still under development as well.
Yes,
but that's I'm telling you, dude, that's sweet the way you dropped it off the shoulders there like that. That looks awesome. Now, Matt, there is a label on the back, and my eyesight's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you read that so everybody knows?
I'd love to. So on the, we've got the picture and all the symbolism and everything that Macaulay was just talking about on the front, and then on the back of the label, we have it reading, "Crafted in our house, savored in yours. The bottle in your hand holds more than just a spirit. It's alchemy, wood, fire, grain, and water, transformed into liquid gold. Inspired by the alchemists of old, our master blenders take good spirits and elevate them to extraordinary, using equal parts mastery and belief in the unknown. Don't settle for ordinary. Defy convention and unleash your spirit."
And make sure you dabble in the dark arts responsibly.
I'm putting that on the. I'm gonna put that in the show notes, man.
I love that tagline so much.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because like that one's a little taboo. And like when me and my partner were coming up with the barely legal bourbon, he's like, that's like a porn term. And I was like, sex sells.
It does.
Yeah.
But we've said that for years, right? We always call. Like barely legal rye.
Yeah, it would be like a 51%.
Yeah, we've always.
barely legal.
So yeah, I mean, I get it. As soon as you said it, I'm like, hell yeah, man! I'm glad somebody's finally saying that because it's what it is, right? You're barely legal. So yeah, there may be some connotation to that, but
it is what it is.
It is. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. It's okay. So let's talk about the palate and finish on this, Matt, if you want to.
It's big and bold. I like what you were saying. Match bold with bold. Nice, and it drinks a lot like a Pinot. It's got those bold, spicy, kind of earthy flavors right up front. Sweetness, but not overly sweet, almost like a good puckering, dry, lasting finish with it as well. Just really, really well done. The Pinot Noir, I don't know if I ever would have thought to do it. Kind of a bold step towards it, but it's paid off.
Yeah, I agree. And again, leather notes. I'm getting all this leather. The kid chewing on a baseball glove out in the center field. That's me. Getting those notes, but just really good. I think I like the Madeira better than this one, but I think that's just personal preference, right?
I think that this was made to wash down a steak.
We need to do that. We need to do another episode and just do that.
Food pairing. Bananas Foster,
there you go.
Amburana Rye, Wagyu.
Matt's the cook, man.
I'm in.
Matt can make that happen for sure.
Yeah.
So, Macaulay, I'm just kind of curious. Let's talk about things that are coming up. Well, I mean, everything's new, right? So it's not...
Everything's coming up.
I know.
Yeah,
everything is coming up. So there's not like any really exciting news other than everything we've talked about because it's all new, right? So what for you, I'm just curious, not just this part of the journey that you've done over the last year, but overall, 7 years. I mean, you've been in this for a while. What's been like the best part of this journey for you? I'm just curious.
I mean, honestly, it's just the interpersonal relationships that I've met. I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably know that I like to talk a lot. So I just love hearing people's stories. And that's always been one thing. Like, you can figure out the pulse of America when you're sitting at a bar in a city and like talking to a random stranger. You know what better for worse, like what's going on in that city, like what their struggles are, what their joys are. And this is just someone that you're able to sit down and have a drink with and just open up that you normally would never talk to. So I think that like whiskey actually brings in that pulse of community and brings people together in that sense.
Yeah.
And just being able to meet all these people from different backgrounds, being able to travel around the country, like talk with people, and just literally just hearing people's individual stories and making those interpersonal connections is what makes me tick.
That's awesome, man. And I agree. I mean, I love that. And you're such a personable person. I mean, you really are. Every time we're around you, always have a good time. Great conversations. We got to hang out at the Bourbon Classic. I think I brought a bottle of double oaked with me out there. You know, everybody's able to have a little bit of that. But it's always fun just to sit around with people that you know from the industry. And you're definitely one of those guys that's a lot of fun to hang out with, man. There's no doubt about it. And you're always going to be the guy. You express yourself the way you express yourself, and which I respect tremendously, man, because you live your life by your own rules and how you want to do things, and you're true to who you are, and I think that's really cool.
I mean, if I wasn't my authentic self, I wouldn't be able to survive in this conformity of space and place and cultural standards. I mean, I'm not too outlandish, but I'm not going to conform to anything. I am who I am, and what I say is what I believe in, and I stand behind everything I say because my truth is my dharma.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, man. And I'm happy you didn't go to law school. For you, I'm happy. I mean, honestly, man,
we
because
have been writing deeds together.
you could instead of you could have been this when you're 55 years old. So you can get a glimpse into the future of what life could have been like for you,
man,
Macaulay.
I worked for a lawyer for several years doing title and deeds stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I hate this.
You know, I'm not going to say anything, but it can be difficult at times, you know.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of excitement.
Well, I want to do criminal defense and trial lawyer.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, we're at the end of round 3 here, end of the show. But before we wrap it up, where can people find out more information about Dark Arts and, you know, all the things that are going to be going on with you guys?
Yeah, the best way to connect with us is darkartswhiskey.com or follow us on our Instagram page. We're in the whole process of building this out. So this is literally one of the first public appearances that I've made with this brand. And you can sign up on our website and get the release dates.
Awesome.
We're actually building out our e-commerce platform too. So you'll be able to purchase this through our online store.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Ship it to all 50 states.
Awesome.
And then we're just eagerly waiting to unravel our distribution strategy as well too. So currently, we're teed up for Kentucky, Illinois, Texas, going into Florida, Minnesota, Colorado, and then just kind of layering on top of that because I'm just like, it'd be too much diving too deep.
Yeah,
so,
but that's what I said. You know, at the beginning of the show, I said we'll talk about distribution. People are going to be surprised, and I think for a brand that's just starting, that's huge that you guys have already gotten to that point and that you're there.
Well. When you got good friends,
there you go, man. I mean, yeah.
The people understand what you're doing.
Right.
They know your vision. And that's one thing that you just said earlier. I mean, being part of my authentic self. I mean, every time I meet these people, like I am who I am, and people love me.
Oh, yeah.
They love sitting and talking around with me. I'm just not one of those stale corporate people reading from a script, going through the motions. Like, I am who I am, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, 95% of the people like me, but those 5% that don't, they're out there. Don't find them.
Well, we all have those people. I probably have more than 5%, unfortunately. But no, I think it's great, man, and that's awesome. So we're at the end of the round. So Matt, final thoughts before we wrap up the show tonight.
I can't wait to see this out in the stores, get it in more people's hands, and to be a regular at the whiskey house, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
Just a few miles downtown.
Yeah, no doubt
even
about
closer
that.
for you, man. So you'd be there much easier.
Yeah, we'll get you set up with the Bourbon Life locker there.
That's what I'm going to need that. Maybe a bar stool somewhere, a name plaque. I don't know.
Cot, whatever you need.
Mattress in the back, whatever.
Yeah, Mark just lives off of Havarti and sleeps on the cot back here 2 days a
Taps
night.
into a barrel every once in a while.
Yeah.
When he needs. I can make that happen, man. That's real. Matt, I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite? Did you have a favorite from the night?
Oh, gosh.
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
You really are putting me on the spot. I got to say, I think the Pinot.
Was it? Okay.
It's bold, it's funky, it's unapologetic.
Okay.
I like it.
Very nice. I'm going to stick with the Madeira, man.
The Madeira is good.
God, that was, I'm telling you, man, very, very awesome. Macaulay, man, well, before we wrap it up, let me ask you, do you have any final thoughts? Anything else you want to add before I get it out of here?
just come check us out.
Yeah.
Give us a chance and let the whiskey speak for itself, and just come enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to show you a good time. We're going to catch a vibe, have some great whiskey for you, and just kind of rock and roll from there.
Yeah. And I can guarantee people out there listening that you're not going to be disappointed at all with the whiskey, with the experience, with everything. So definitely check it out. Macaulay, we really appreciate you being here tonight, man. I know things are kind of hectic and you're getting still everything set up, man. Truly appreciate you inviting us down Sunday. That was awesome. I mean, that was a great experience. Matt and I had a great time doing that. You didn't have to do that, but we appreciate you inviting us to kind of experience and share with us what you're doing, just in a laid back environment. You know, a lot of times we see each other out, or we see people out, and you're at these events, and it's hard to really have that time, you know? So we got to have that, which was great, and really appreciate that. The whiskey, what you're doing, man, it's awesome. And I told you that Sunday. I'm just excited for you. Everything that you're doing, man, I'm thrilled for you.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's they took the bridle off me, and I'm able to run free now.
Yeah,
I think
it's great, man. I am, like Matt said, I'm excited to see everything that happens, what you do. The next 3 to 5 years for you, I have a feeling it's gonna be absolutely amazing, and it's gonna be fun to be able to watch what happens. So I'm excited for you and for the brand. And like Matt said, I have a feeling we'll be spending quite a bit of time. Until you tell us to just, you guys, it's time to go home, guys. Okay, just go ahead and leave. But
hey, we're just gonna rack up all those Amex points for you.
that sounds
Send
great.
you around the world on them flight miles.
I'll take it, man. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here. We want to thank all our sponsors, of course. Thank you guys for everything you do for us. We could not do this show. We could not have this much fun. Put out great quality content. With great guests like Macaulay without your support. So we appreciate you guys, everything you do for us. We appreciate you, our listeners, like Matt says.
Morning, noon, or night.
Whenever it is you listen to us, we appreciate you guys tuning in, checking us out, spending some time with us. If you want to reach out to us, please feel free to do so. You can find us on Instagram at The Bourbon Life. You can find us on Facebook at The Bourbon Life as well. Or you can join our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. We'd love to have you in there with us. Shoot us an email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com if you have any suggestions for shows or improvements that we could make. Not that there would be any improvements, but
Or coming up, you can probably find us at the Dark Arts Whiskey House.
Yeah, exactly right. And actually, mid-September, in a couple of weeks, you're going to find us at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
That's right. Yeah.
So we should probably tag that, since we are the preferred podcast for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Right. Yeah, we'll be down there hanging out. So if you're at the festival, find us. We may have shirts, we may not, Matt. I'm still working on that. But we'll be drinking.
Open-ended promissory, we don't know. But either way, we'll be there.
We'll be there.
Hopefully, we will have shirts on.
And we'll be drinking. I can guarantee you that. We'll be having a good time. But thank you guys for listening and tuning in. We really appreciate that. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Dabble in the dark arts responsibly, though.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.